Hey y'all, as y'all can see, we're not at the farm today. We're here at the house in the city. I've been working on a project for the food plot. It's getting close to time to plant again, and the whole point of the type of food plot that I did was to get away from, well, number one is to build soil, because we have that sandy soil, and I want to build good topsoil. Number two is I want to get away from fertilizer. Now, I put fertilizer in on the first one because I'm starting from scratch, so did fertilizer. But as we do this method, and I'll get into that in a minute, we're going to be building topsoil and putting nutrients back in the ground, so I can get away from that, and then also get away from herbicides. So what I'm doing now for this next one, you know, I talked about the winter oats and the cereal rye and the winter wheat, and I want to terminate those crops before they go to seed. I don't want that seed going to the ground and sprouting, because it will overseed. And I want to put a different type of soil builder food plot that's good for the wildlife, good for the birds, good for the deer, good for the rabbits, good for the wildlife all together. And to do that, rather than spray a herbicide, I want to do the crimp method. And I've looked at the price of crimpers. To go out and buy one, it's pretty expensive. So what I decided to do was to build my own crimper out of things that I find, things that I buy, whatever. And so what I did was I found an old water tank for like a well pump. It's 60 inches, and I bought some pipe. I bought some 2-inch square tubing, and I bought some 2-inch angle iron. And I'll show you what I got so far. I started this project before I really started recording, and I started it last year sometime, and I didn't finish it. So now it's getting close to time that I'm going to need it, so I'm trying to get it done before, say, May, when I go to seed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to broadcast into the existing plot, and then I'm going to roll this crimper over that existing plot. And what it's going to do is it's going to lay it down and build a mulch. And that does a couple of things. It's going to hold in the moisture content. On the hot days, it's going to keep the soil cooler, and on the cold days, it'll act as insulation and keep that soil warmer. And also, as it crimps, those stalks, they'll get little crimps in them, and that will terminate that existing crop. The legumes like the radishes, the turnips and stuff, that's going to die off anyways. But the oats, the tall grassy stalks will be terminated, should be terminated with this crimper. It's kind of a design that I made up looking at some things online. Let me show you what I got so far. So this is what I got so far. I got some 2-inch square tubing coming up. I've welded it together and in a frame around it. I've got some 2-inch flat bar that I found laying around that I'm going to use as the tongue. I got some 2-inch angle that I'm welding in every, I don't know, 6-8 inches. I don't remember what it was. And I've put a piece of pipe going through and bought some carrier bearings. I had to modify these carrier bearings to fit the pipe because they're for like an exact shaft, and the pipe was a little bigger than that, so I had to modify the inside of it, kind of hone it out. But it's just kind of sit in there. Nothing's tight right now. It's just, but and I've welded that It goes all the way through, but I've welded it. Got a big gob weld there on either side to hold it. And so I fashioned it to where these kind of overlap a little bit. So I'm trying not to miss anything, but I was gonna do it that far apart, and then I thought about the chatter as it bounces around, so I figured rather than weld a solid bar all the way across, I'd go in between and alternate. And there's going to be another row in here in the middle. Now this is a old water tank, so there's things like this plug that I'm having to work around and kind of measure and maybe grind out. On some of the other ones I had to grind out the here's one right here. I'd kind of cut out the angle there and weld it in on the back side. So it's not pretty, it's not perfect, but it'll work on the farm, I think. I guess we'll find out in upcoming videos when I go to crimp that crop and terminate it. So y'all stay tuned. I've got some I've started cutting. I got another, the reason I stopped is because I ran out of angle iron, so I went and grabbed another stick of angle, and I've cut it in 1 foot pieces to continue welding on this. Now this is galvanized. This is a galvanized tank. So one of the things that you got to be wary of is getting sick welding on galvanized. So what I do is I take the grinder and I grind off, get down to the metal. I'm obviously in a well ventilated area. I'm outside. Got a nice breeze today, so it'll take those fumes away from me. I get upwind of it and don't expose myself to those fumes, but I do my best to grind out the areas that I'm welding. So just kind of a disclaimer, be careful welding galvanized, it will make you sick. So I said before, I'm trying to cut costs. One of these crimpers is probably, if I were to buy one actually made for this application, doing what I'm doing, it's about $8,500. And I like the wildlife. I love the wildlife. I love taking care of them and growing them. But $8,500 is quite the expense to work on food plots that aren't making me any money. So another thing is I've lost my hood, my face shield. So I've got a welding hood from Harbor Freight. It's a cheap one, but it does have a grinding setting on it. And so I've got that on grinding to protect my face. And of course I'm going to be wearing some safety glasses as well. And I'm going to be using a welder from Harbor Freight. So don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money to do this stuff. I've got probably a few $100, maybe $300-400 in this crimper, but it's a whole lot cheaper than the $8,500 price tag on one of these. coming along pretty quick. Having those already cut sure does help. Went ahead and cut the whole stick up into 1 foot pieces. Looks like my wife just got here. But it's coming along. We'll see how it turns out. Mine ran out of wire. Well, looks like I ran out of welding wire, so I'm gonna have to make a trip to the store, go get some more welding wire, and get back on it. Don't know if I'll get to it today. I got some things around here I need to do. I got a birthday party for my daughter in the morning or tomorrow afternoon, so I got to get things done around here. I was hoping to get this done before I leave for the property, either Sunday or Monday. I hadn't decided. I'll probably try to go to church Sunday morning and then maybe leave after that. So I did end up going to Harbor Freight and went in there down the welding aisle and saw that there was no gasless flux core welding wire left that fit my machine, and I was a little bummed out about that. I went to an associate that worked there just to see if maybe they had some like in the back, and she said, oh, check on this end cap down there, there may be some over there. So now I went and checked over there, and sure enough, they had it. So we're back in business. Hopefully get this welding job done today, and get that piece of equipment or tractor implement out at the farm and ready for the next crop. So be back with you in just a minute. Okay, so I've ground down the galvanized. So you can see here where galvanized was. I've ground that down to bare metal, and I'm going to go ahead and tack them in, make sure all my calculations as far as where they need to be line up. I think it's right, but I'm going to go ahead and tack them all. and then I'll go through and weld them all out. All right, so there's some crickling and crackling. This tank has a liner inside, so it's probably what I'm hearing. I got the Harbor Freight welder, and it's not the best, but it does get the job done. I don't think I have to worry about these things coming off because of a failed weld. I'm getting good penetration into the metal. I mean, they're solid. I might go in and do some stitch welding if I do start having some failures, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. We're just rolling it over the ground like a big wheel, like big tire treads and sandy soil. I don't think there will be any issues there. So hopefully this works out for me. I still got to do the tongue. I need to figure out I don't have a torch to cut a big hole, and I don't have a big drill bit for a pin to go on the tractor to hook it up. So I'm probably gonna see if I can track down a big drill bit that I can put on my drill press, so I can put those plates and just punch through them with the drill. But I'll save that for another day, probably. I think that's going to be it for this one. Appreciate y'all hanging in there, watching as I do this. But yeah, that's going to be it. Y'all have a good one. God bless.